Yes, hello. Today we're breaking down one of the best non-EX decks right now, Rampardos and Lucario. If you're looking for a deck that's aggressive, consistente, this is it. Let's break it down. Rampardos and Lucario combines power and efficiency. With no EX Pokemon, you force your opponent to make 3 KOs every game while dishing out high scalable damage. Whether you're facing Arceus, aka God, other top decks, or even the Mirror, this deck has the tools to win, if you pilot it carefully. Let's talk pros and cons real quick. This deck has no EX Pokemon, so you only give up 1 point at a time. This deck also has a strong matchup against other meta decks, especially the oppressive god Arceus. This deck is also fast, aggressive, and snowballs damage. And finally, Lucario boosts not only Rampardos, but all of your mons, so you can make massive hits of 150 to 170 damage respectively, assuming this is Rampardos we're talking about. Unfortunately, there are problems with the deck, so it ain't perfect, and you just gotta deal with the cons of these decks. So the first con is some of the Pokemon have high retreat costs, making it hard to pivot. And I'm looking at Chew, Sudowoodo, Rampardos, and Lucario with your double energy retreat costs. Shook my head. Also, the other con of this is Skull Fossil is not searchable, so you'll need to draw into it if you want to get Rampardos out. Still, if you can handle those issues, this deck is a powerhouse. So you might be wondering, Sir PP, how do I play this magnificent deck? Well, I got you. Here's a deck list to get you started. This deck list comes from the beautiful website that I've been working on with my friend Kata called pokedex.gg. Here it is. You should definitely go check it out and tickle the bookmark button so you can stay up to date with the tier 1 meta decks and all other meta decks that you currently enjoy, or even the not so meta decks that you currently enjoy. But without further ado, here is the deck list. First up, we got 2 Craniados. This card is great in the early game or mid game to apply pressure and keep your opponent on them toes, but just beware that that's not always ideal, so mainly keep it in the back if you can, but if you know your opponent's deck, ignore what I just said and just go to town. 2 Rampardos, your main attacker. 130 to 150 damage for a single point, yes please. 2 Riolu, because otherwise you cannot play your Lucario. I mean, that's just how it goes. 2 Lucario boosts Rampardos' damage, also can attack in a pinch, plus boost all your other mons. It's super importante. 1 Marshadow, a fantastic mid-game pivot and crucial in the mirror match. 1 Sudowoodo, this is a counter to counter those pesky EXs, especially Arceus EX. You could also play this at 2, but I prefer this at 1, and most of the best lists run this at 1. 2 Professor's Research, because Pot agreed. 1 Baby Girl Sabrina, because you want to pivot your opponent's mon and ruin their board state. 1 Big Daddy Cyrus, to get those quick kills in case they try to run away from you. 2 Skull Fossil, because you want to play Rampardos. 2 Pokemon Comunicazione, because you're going to need this in order to search your pieces, especially if you've bricked a little bit. 2 Pokeball, because searching basics is OP. And also make sure you're only using fighting energy, but you shouldn't have this issue since they're all fighting mons. Unless you're spicy and decide to put a grass energy in there for that dual energy spice, in which case I can't help you. Optionally, you can also use Hitmonchan as a budget choice or backup attacker, but like I said, Sudowoodo is a better choice in this meta. Let's look into the game. As you can see, I start off with Marshadow, which is the worst start possible, and they started with the best start possible, Dialga plus Rocky Helm. Luckily, I did draw into Skull Fossil, which is huge, because it allows me to set up Rampardos, which is big, we want that. I do put an energy on Marshadow, just in case we want to swing with it, or if we feel like we have to. It can be used as a meat shield, it can be used as a way to retreat. Just essentially, we pretty much set it up, so that way we put our opponent, we give a little bit of pressure to our opponent. Now, it's our opponent's turn. They research, which is unfortunate for us because that just means that they get a big hand. We don't run Mars, which means they can just keep everything in hand and set up Dialga before they drop everything on board, which means we cannot Sabrina them if we had Sabrina. Obviously, I'm riding up to Cranidos. It's ideal. Here I'm thinking about whether or not I want to build up Marshadow or Sudowoodo. The correct play here would be to build up Sudowoodo, and that's actually what I do, and you're going to see that momentarily. I'm also going to retreat Marshadow. The reason why this is the correct play is simply because we need to be dealing damage to Dialga to the point where Marshadow can kill it, especially if Sudowoodo dies. Now, if they were running double Shaman, this would have been the incorrect play, and we should have actually Marshadowed. We should have attacked with Marshadow. Luckily, this is not the case. A lot of players play one Shaman and not two. And two Shaman has more brick potential, so that's why most people play it at one. But, you know, there's always trade-offs to this. And they play Giant Cape, which is unfortunate, but that's just how it goes. There's not much we can do other than just take Le Dommage. So that's exactly what we do, and they're going to ramp up God because why not? That's how you win games, generally speaking. There's not much we can do. And now I ride up to Rampardos. I'm going to be building up Marshadow, though. The reason for that is because on our turn, whenever we need Rampardos, we can just build it up immediately. And that's because it only takes one energy to do that. So it's better to build up that Marshadow, get that set up, so in case we need access to it, we got it. Now in this Situazione, they're going to most likely switch into their other Dialga. And I think the reasoning behind that is if they can find Shaman, and we can't find Lucario, then in that case, they'll be able to avoid taking damage from Marshadow. But this is assuming they get lucky with their draws, and this is assuming I don't get lucky with mine. Now, this is, I think, where they make the big mistake. They shouldn't have potioned that. They should have kept potion in hand and put that on Dialga EX, the one that they're putting in the front, because that would have allowed them to avoid a Marshadow kill. Now here I'm trying to figure out where I want to put that energy, but I figure it's best to be just putting it on that Marshadow. And here I'm looking for Lucario, because if I can find Lucario, I've screwed them over entirely. And also that would also mean that their potion, even if they left it for this Dialga, it wouldn't have mattered. And that's exactly what happens. So their misplay automatically is no longer a misplay, it just doesn't matter anymore. And you could say it's a little bit of luck, but just another thing with Poke Comunicazione, using it later once you've already have an established board or almost established board is usually better because it gives you a more relevant Situazione. Now, Shaman could have been a big deal breaker for us, but even if they had Potion, it would be 110, and we would be swinging with Marshadow for 120. So again, Shaman wouldn't have mattered in this Situazione. And that's huge because it basically means that we get to continue the game as if it didn't matter whatever they did, which is how this deck really counters, you know, the main tier 1 deck. Now, if they had double Shaman, it still wouldn't have mattered, and they wouldn't have been able to switch out of Dialga. So they would have been locked in on Dialga and Arceus, and that's it. Which is a shame because, you know, it just means that we're going to murder them. Now, here, I don't think it matters where we put the energy, but I do believe we put it on Rampardos. I put down the Riolu just in case that they try to make a Sabrina play, so that way they can't take out our Lucario. Because if they take out the Lucario, we're actually in trouble, and we don't want that. So Riolu goes down on the board, so that way there's no Sabrina, they're forced to God, and at this point the game is over. There's nothing they can do. They can't Giant Cape again. A potion wouldn't matter. They basically are forced to essentially swing into the Marshadow or whatever they decide to Sabrina, which they're not going to, FYI. And the game, like I said, it's pretty much over. There's like nothing left for them to do except swing and then Ladai. So that's what they're pretty much going to do in a moment. They're just taking a little bit of some time before they do that. So there you go. They use the ultimate force, and we move on to the game win. Now, here I get a little cheeky, and you're going to see what I mean. We can win right here, but I decide to Professor's Research in case I find Lucario. They're gracious enough to let me do this, because they don't concede. And they even let me take the final swing, which is not something that normally happens. So here you go, and now you're going to see the Maximus Damage that Rampardos can do, which is a total of 190, which is insane, especially for 1 energy. That's almost Charizard level damage. And there you have it, the victory. So where are you gonna pull these cards? What packs do you need to focus on? Well, I got you here as well. You can build most of the deck from Spacetime Smackdown Dialga. That's where you'll find the Rampardos and Lucario you need for this Rampardos Lucario deck. Who would have figured? I know, it's crazy. However, there are a few key cards in other sets to make the deck optimal. These include Marshadow from Mythical Island, Sudowoodo from Triumphant Light, Big Daddy Cyrus from Spacetime Smackdown Palkia, and Baby Girl Sabrina from Genetic Apex Charizard. So there you have it, Rampardos plus Lucario, a deck that hits like a truck, trades efficiently, and hopefully keeps you in control from start to finish. But even if you can't keep full control, you got Marshadow to bail you out. If you're looking for a deck to take on the current meta, I think this is the one. With that being said, that's the Widgio. If you enjoyed this deck profile, you can drop a like, you could subscribe, and it would be nice to let me know in the comments what deck you would want to see next. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have yourselves a salty day, and I will see you in the next Widgio.